Hi, I'm Lindsey Higginbotham. Today I'm going to be giving an informative speech. Today I'm going to be talking about Jack Kevorkian, also known as Dr. Death. He was a very prominent figure in the euthanasia argument. You might be wondering why I chose this topic. Me personally, I'm very interested in true crime, and the case of Dr. Jack Kevorkian was one of the most interesting to me, personally. You might be wondering what euthanasia is. You've probably heard of it before because it is what is done on dogs and cats when they are put to sleep. But it can also be done on people, although it is extremely illegal in America. It is not legal in any of the 50 states or the 4 territories. Euthanasia is when someone kills another person, but they are willingly being killed. It is when the physician or the doctor presses the button or flips a switch. It's when it is not done by the patient. Physician-assisted suicide is not the same as euthanasia. Physician-assisted suicide is when the doctor gives a patient medicine and they willingly take it, but they do it themselves. You might be wondering why someone won't just do physician-assisted suicide if euthanasia is illegal. Well, some people are not in the physical shape to give themselves that medicine or press that button. And some people just don't have the willpower to do it on their own. They know they want to die, but they can't do it on their own, and they have to have someone help them. Dr. Jack Kevorkian personally believed that euthanasia should not be illegal. He thought that everyone should have that choice to die with or without help. Assisting someone's death should not be a crime is a famous quote from Dr. Jack Kevorkian himself. He was a pathologist from Michigan, and in the famous article, Kevorkian's 9-Year Euthanasia Crusade by Liz Townsend, it is said that he killed 130 people, not death row inmates, because Dr. Kevorkian was indeed a pathologist, and he first started with death row inmates. Therefore, this is when he got obsessed with death, and he would even go to the lengths of attempting to take pictures of them at the exact moment and try to see what their eyes looked like when they were dying at that exact moment. Although he probably killed quite a many people doing that, he killed 130 people that were not death row criminals. Dr. Jack Kevorkian used not one, but 2 machines to practice euthanasia. One machine was called the Thanatron, and the second was the Mercitron. Let's talk about the Thanatron. If you've heard the word Thana, it's probably very familiar to you because it is, in fact, the Greek word for death. The Thanatron used a different mixture of IV drugs like saline, a sleep-induced barbiturate, a paralytic, and a mixture of potassium chloride that instantly stopped the victim's heart or the patient's heart. It was, in fact, painless, and that was very appealing to many people that were not living their best quality of life and that were not wanting to be alive anymore. It is a lot less intimidating than just killing your own self with weapons or pills or anything among those subjects. Due to euthanasia being illegal, Dr. Jack Kevorkian did in fact lose his license, and he was finally convicted of first-degree murder and was sentenced 10 to 15 years. But he got out after 8 years for good behavior. He was actually caught for a fact to be convicted when he filmed himself doing euthanasia and assisting someone in their death, and he sent it into a famous news show called 60 Minutes. I'm sure some of you have heard of it. The other machine that Dr. Jack Kevorkian used was called the Mercitron. Notice the root word mercy. It is basically saying that it was meant to be a very painless experience, but unlike the Thanatron, it did not use IV drugs. Due to euthanasia being very illegal, Dr. Kevorkian did in fact lose his medical license, and therefore he no longer had access to any of the IV drugs that he used for the Thanatron. Then he had to look for other resorts. Therefore, he used carbon monoxide gas, which is a lot easier to access than medicine that is prescribed. Instead of putting you to sleep and stopping your heart, it did suffocate you, which It is rumored to be that the Mercitron was not as painless as the Thanatron because you are virtually being suffocated by carbon monoxide, which is not a pleasant experience. Euthanasia is still extremely illegal in the United States, and it is a very, very, very controversial debate. Some people believe that it is a very good thing and that it should be legal, and some people think it's murder, and that is why Dr. Jack Kevorkian got convicted for murder. In The Life of Dr. Death, the article by Philip Nix from the Bentley Historical Library, Philip Nix quoted that Dr. Jack Kevorkian moved the debate forward in ways that we can only imagine on the euthanasia argument. You know, Dr. Jack Kevorkian even went to the lengths of forming relationships with the family of some of his patients. And there are many people who are related to or close to some of his patients that say he is a hero and that, you know, he virtually saved their lives because they believe that, you know, their close loved one was better off being dead than living in the way that they were living. You know, there's many people who had diseases, mental illnesses, and they couldn't function on their own, and they just were not happy in any form or fashion. You know, it is very controversial, and some people see him as a hero, some people see him as a murderer. What are your thoughts?